House. He said he was given this information by his security retinue and also those IB officers who were actually tapping his phone. With me is TV9 Digital Executive Editor Kartikeya Sharma. Kartikeya, what is going on? What is Rahul Gandhi saying about being tapped?
I think this was a bit of an impromptu press conference which Rahul Gandhi did today in Parliament.
We'll have that bite, we'll play it out.
Yes, absolutely. And he addressed a lot of things, but the most important part of the press conference was that he says that he knows that his phone is being tapped, and he said that the minister should resign. In charge, he said that only Amit Shah and the Prime Minister could have authorized the use of Pegasus, and he said that on this issue, like Rafale, he would turn out to be true.
Right. When he mentioned Rafale, when he was mentioning Pegasus, he made a statement which said he was not supported in Rafale. Who was he trying to address and what was his message?
I think there were a couple of things here because he primarily spoke on two issues, and these are the two bites which we are going to show it to you. The first issue was on the Intelligence Bureau. The second issue was on the Pegasus and Rafale. But on the issue of Intelligence Bureau, he said the reason why he says it so solidly is that he gets calls from the senior intelligence officers that, Mr. Gandhi, that your phone is being tapped, but we can't do anything about it. Now, the larger issue is that, I would say it's a little wild off the mark allegations, because now tomorrow the opposition is going to say that please name the officer who is saying that your phone is being tapped. So I think those the nitty-gritty of such a complex political issue
very important
got lost there.
I mean, basically, still no proof that his phone was being tapped because there is no such list. There is a name in his list, but whether his phone was being tapped is still not certain. But he made an allegation that is very, very serious. You think Congress and the rest of the opposition thinks that they've got an issue that they can actually capitalize on in Parliament session this time?
I don't know whether this will turn out to be a real thing like the Bofors turned out to be, or will it turn out to be like a dud bomb which Rafale happened, because there are no details in Pegasus. At least the tapping case of Amar Singh or the phone tapping case of Neera Radia, you had those intimate details. For example, a lot of people said these are the people who are trying to determine who's going to be the next cabinet minister in Manmohan Singh's government, or for example the sort of language which Amar Singh used against Sonia Gandhi. So people, there was a to put it simply, stickiness to the content. People remembered what happened. But in Pegasus, when you said the Macron got tapped, or Mr. Gandhi is getting tapped, Anil Ambani is on the potential list, or Alok Verma is on the potential list, what was the conversation?
Civil society activists
is lacking.
All of them.
Lacking is the content, and that's the most important part.
Right. Let's look at the larger picture. There was the oxygen story that the monsoon session began with, and now Pegasus. You think opposition thinks that this time they can actually put government under real pressure because of these expose?
I really doubt that they can put the government under any real pressure under these expose. But Vishnu, before we get into the detail of this, I'll ask that the bite of Rahul Gandhi on the Intelligence Bureau should be played out so that you can understand the sort of charge he was trying to make.
Right. Okay.
Every single phone of mine is tapped. Okay. And let me tell you another thing. I get phone calls from IB people who tap my phone. Okay. They call me up and say, please be aware that we are tapping your phone. Pegasus is classified by the Israeli state as a weapon. And that weapon is supposed to be used against terrorists. The Prime Minister and the Home Minister have used this weapon against the Indian state and against our institutions. They have used it politically. They have used it in Karnataka. They have used it to scuttle probes. They have used it against the Supreme Court. They have used it against all the institutions of this country. The only word for this is treason. There is no other word for this.
That was Rahul Gandhi speaking to reporters at Parliament House. You were speaking about the opposition trying to put pressure on government because of one Pegasus and the oxygen story, the larger picture.
Absolutely. Vishnu, you see, oxygen is a story which connects with people. But what is happening is, and this brings me to the larger question, that Rahul Gandhi himself finds his narrative stuck to the Rafale issue. He gets stuck to the, the Anil Ambani issue. and it is for this reason he in loop he keeps on repeating Pegasus and Rafale. If you go through his press conference once again, 30% of it was dedicated to Rafale. He kept on saying that I was not held by journalists on Rafale, I was not held by my own party on Rafale, and then he goes on to say that even on the Pegasus issue he will turn out to be right because his phones are being tapped. So I would like that the bite on the Rafale issue to be played out so that you can understand the sort of linkage he is trying to get into. And this is not about only Rafale, it is about the controversy which shook the foundation of the most important investigating agency of this country, which is Central Bureau of Investigation.
Why are you not asking why the CBI director's phone was not tapped? Why are you asking me about Anil Ambani? No, you can't ask me because because this is a mischievous question. The real question is, why on the last minute, when the CBI director was about to file an FIR, why was his phone trapped and why was he blackmailed? That's the real question. And who did it? That's the question. The question is not whether Anil Ambani's phone was tapped. See, so even in your questions,
It's all related.
no, but you have to ask the correct question. See, you have to ask the precise question.
That was Rahul Gandhi again speaking about the allegation that CBI director, former CBI director, was also being snooped on. Karthike, the oxygen story, just talk about that for a bit. The union government said that the states told them that there were no oxygen deaths. The states, even the opposition ruled states, seem to echo that. The opposition has no legs to stand on because even their governments are saying that it is true that no deaths happened because of oxygen lack.
Because opposition has decided that the issue on which they are going to run against the government is Pegasus. So there will be no debate. My understanding is that this is going to be a washout session. If you ask me, I would conclude my understanding of the press conference of Rahul Gandhi and what is happening right now is that this is going to be a washout session. The only issue they need to streamline is whether only Mr. Tharoor's committee, which is a standing committee on parliament, should be looking into this issue. But my understanding is Rahul Gandhi would go in for a JPC, but the opposition does not have a number to push the government to go for a JPC. Earlier, during UPA times or even during Vajpayee's time, it has taken opposition 2 to 3 months to push the government for a JPC, and most of the JPC reports unfortunately have been inconclusive when it comes to important issue, whether it was an issue of carbonated drinks or whether it was an issue of the whole 2G scam. So I would say since it's about an issue which is under the confidentiality agreement, it is about an issue which is about national security, I think even the parliament will be out of grid. But then yes, the work will not happen in this session, and what will eventually happen is a compromise in which in last 3 days opposition will boycott the parliament and all the 21 bills will be passed without any discussion.
Significantly, you mentioned about the JPC, Rahul Gandhi batting for a JPC. Shashi Tharoor of Congress has said that JPC was not necessary and the Committee on IT will actually look into it. I see a dissonance there in the Congress strategy, isn't it?
It is for this reason because Mr. Tharoor says since he heads the standing committee on IT of parliamentary of the Lok Sabha, because he is a member from Lok Sabha, he has the power to summon officers. He also has the power to summon intelligence officers. The only issue is that in the committee they cannot submit written notes, but there can be summation on their part, or IB officers, RAW officers, NTRO officers. Depositions can be there. They can actually be there and talk about it, but they cannot submit written notes. Even if the note is submitted, then it will have to be taken back once the members have gone through it. So I think it will be a restricted. The broader scope can be JPC or a judge-based inquiry, but I think that's a matter which the opposition will have to decide. It is not in the domain of the Congress, simply for the reason they don't have the numbers.
Thank you, Karthik, for all that information.
Thank you.
Karthik says this is going to be a washout monsoon session. We'll know soon. Keep watching TV9 Digital. We'll bring you all the latest news as they happen. Thank you for now.